Welcome to the Rave Festival live in Bulgaria and online wherever you are in the world.
Welcome, welcome. I'm Peter. Thanks for being here. I was basically asked to do this talk um, because it sounds like a lot of people are interested in this kind of topic these days, probably for several reasons. Because you're part of this coming mutation, which we're all here for, which we all somehow feel a part of, or that we were born for this time. And so we're all playing our role, and human design is giving us an amazing framework for getting in touch with our mystical or shamanic nature. Human design as a shamanic tool. And this is, having been into human design and shamanism, I've explored and investigate and experiment with how do they inform each other? How do they cross over? We are nine-centered beings, and at the precipice of this mutation we're about to go through as a species. So it's all these tools can be very practically applied in these times that we're living in right now. But we are nine-centered beings still in a seven-centered world. So, and it's a seven-centered world in lots of ways, not just in the homogenized world, but even a lot of these spiritual traditions from tens of thousands of years are also at this precipice. So we are nine-centered beings utilizing some seven-centered tools that we've been given, and finding our own alchemy with it. So in this word, I'll just say this in the beginning here, what is, well, the word shamanic, it's kind of a buzzword these days, right? But I just want to be really clear that, everyone who's here, everyone who's really, if you obviously you've committed to being a part of this weekend, you're passionate about awakening, you're passionate about your experiment. And so let's just bypass the trendy understanding of shamanism. We're all here for this mutation, and so let's just, I like to say, let's just be cool about that. And my intention here as well is, how do we apply these shamanic tools into our human design experiment? Not not the other way around. Not how are we trying to make human design fit into old paradigms. Old doesn't mean bad, but, seven-centered life. My current definition of shamanism, if I had to put it into a definition, is, and from my own experience, is to be able to read, navigate, guide, and manipulate energy on multiple levels for oneself and others to support living and seeing correctly. That's a loose definition. It's basically, this is the magic of human design. We have a map. We have a logical, mechanical matrix that we can read, and we can see behind the scenes. And so we're learning to read a body graph. We're learning to read, we're learning about the knowledge of human design, and embodying it and applying it to our life, so we can start to see this energy. So well, you can listen to the words someone's saying. You can recognize their bitterness. You can recognize an open center behavior. You can support them, and by guiding the energy, by reading it, guiding it, not letting it take over you and your openness, knowing who you are, knowing who you're not. So basically, you know, we're all learning to be master mechanics. So, and when I say support seeing, living and seeing correctly, it's to really embody our true nature, to awaken as ourselves. So we'll get more into that in a second. I just felt like putting some traditional keynotes of how we might think of shamanism or relate to shamanism. And I just like a yogic path or a shamanic path or a healing path in a seven-centered perspective, I always like to consider the spectrum, because just to reiterate, just because we're talking about seven-centered traditions, it's not all bad. Homogenization is useful in the seven-centered understanding, because then we can all agree on something. We can all say, this is what this looks like. This is, these might be the definitions or descriptions or qualities of what a shaman or a shamanic practitioner, a shamanic facilitator, shamanic artist, however you want to identify with that in your life. Those might be some qualities that we can all agree on. So when I say everything operates on a spectrum, these are all amazing qualities. These are all beautiful qualities. Just like when I was saying, like even in that same spectrum or binary, in like a yogic path, in the seven-centered evolution, this you see these master yogis, master siddhas, beings who could turn their bodies into light and transcend death. I mean, that was the far end of the enlightened spectrum in the seven-centered way. And then we have all the mental, not self, domination, mental control, fear, all that stuff on the other side. But these are some general qualities that we might identify with, because we are still in a seven-centered world, nine-centered bodies in a seven-centered world. So these are these tools, or maybe the way that you've explored shamanism may have fit into these qualities of being an intermediary, being a healer, in a one-on-one kind of environment, creating rituals or rites of passage, connecting with the spirit realm, or connecting with the realm that we can't see with our visible eyes, consciously, intuitively, or through altered states, or through however you get to those altered states, whether it's some kind of practice or plant medicine. And shamans were like mystical record keepers. What are the herbs we used for hundreds of years? What are the traditions that have been passed down that transcend just our immediate tribe? So, putting that in comparison to what does it mean to be a nine-centered shaman or a nine-centered perspective on shamanism through this human design framework. So some of this, or as I've heard Ross say before in one of his talks, Everything we talk about, whether we're talking about spirituality or sexuality or business or anything, it's all a framework to all come back to the same basic tools of human design, strategy and authority, or whatever else it is. It's all a framework to point us back to who am I? And so the main point that I really want to make today, and we're going to talk about a lot of other things, but the main point is that being yourself is shamanic. Living your design, embodying your design, is the doorway to a transcendent awareness. So maybe that just sounds obvious. Of course, we are all ourselves, but this human design work and practice and experiment of seeing where we're operating from our not self, and day by day, breath by breath, decision by decision, embodying our true self more and more. So that path leads to transcendence. When in human design, this word transcendence or awakening, these fancy words, they're not fancy, but our seven-centered mind might think that looks like something. But basically what that means is when you just are yourself, your true self, there's this alignment where you're not trying to be who you're not, where you're not trying to force things or live out of fear or hijack your design in one way or another. You start to see clearly and not take things personally, and really just live your design. And that is magic. It really is a magical experience. And it doesn't have to look like anything. It doesn't have to look like anything spiritual or any traditional version like we looked at on the previous slide of being shamanic. You don't have to live in a hut in the woods and eat mushrooms and whatever. You can. Not that maybe that's part of your path too. That's okay. But to encourage and support you and empower you to know that when you live yourself, when you live as yourself, you can experience this transcendence and awakening. And that's what we're all doing day by day, breath by breath, decision by decision. So yeah, let's take this pressure off ourselves that it has to look like something. It has to look a certain way, or what the mind thinks it should look like. We all can experience these magical moments, these magical little doorways. And by magic, I just mean, when you are yourself, you are aligned with the program. You are aligned with the way of everything. You're right in the center of that mandala with no resistance to how life wants to move through you. And so whether it's awakening all the parts of your brain or your cognition or your substructure or your intuition or even your very worldly, mundane self, things happen. And we all, and there's these little moments where you just want to go and tell everyone about it. And guess what? We're all feeling those things. We're all experiencing those things. And that's where we meet, in the silence, where we just know we're all experiencing little stages of awakening, little stages of transcendence, little stages of alignment with our fixed nature, where that's the doorway to a greater awareness.
Thank you for being with us on this journey at the Human Design Rave Festival 2024.